She's been called Princess Pushy. She was accused of racism and criticised for her words, her books, and even her brooch. Married to a late Queen Elizabeth II cousin, but always on the edge of royal life, Princess Myrtle of Kent has never quite fitted the mould, and she doesn't seem to want to. In this video, we're taking a long, honest look at the life of a woman who has stirred headlines for decades. She's not a working royal or a media darling, but someone who's left a mark, for better or worse. She's appeared on the front pages for more wrong than right reasons. So, who is she? What shaped her? And why has she found herself at the centre of so many royal storms? This is the story of Princess Myrtle of Kent, her titles, her scandals, her beliefs, and the controversy that's never far behind. Born Marie Christen von Reibnitz in 1945 in Karlsbad, part of German-occupied Sudetenland, she was a child of European aristocracy. Her father, Baron Gunther von Reibnitz, was a former cavalry officer and a member of the Nazi Party. Her mother, Countess Maria Zapori von Murasombat, was part of the Hungarian nobility. The family lineage was ancient and proud, with roots tracing back centuries through Europe's noble bloodlines. Her early life was marked by war and displacement. After World War II, the family fled and eventually settled in Australia. Her parents divorced when she was young, and her father returned to Europe. Marie Christine attended boarding school in Australia and eventually moved to London, where she trained as an interior designer at the Victoria and Albert Museum. Her first marriage to banker Thomas Trowbridge ended in divorce, but not before she converted to Catholicism, a decision that would later impact the royal marriage. In 1978, she married Prince Michael of Kent, a cousin of Queen Elizabeth II, but because she was a Catholic, he had to forfeit his place in the line of succession, a rule dating back to the 1701 Act of Settlement. That rule changed in 2015, but it was a major sacrifice at the time. Their wedding was held in Vienna, and the couple became known as minor royals who moved into elite European circles, but not necessarily in the heart of the British public's affection. Despite her title, she was never a working royal, a distinction that matters. She was never on the royal payroll and never carried out any official duties in the name of the crown. But that didn't stop her from behaving like royalty, with a capital R, especially in the eyes of critics. Pushy Princess was a nickname that stuck early and stayed. According to those who've encountered her, the name was earned and not given lightly. She was said to be demanding, controlling, and particular. She once scolded a guest at a formal dinner for how they were using their cutlery, and another time she reportedly corrected a waiter's pronunciation at a state function. Royal aides, journalists, and high society types alike say she often acted with an air of superiority that went beyond confidence. While her friends described her as intelligent and witty, the nickname reflected the wider public sentiment that she was overstepping. In 2005, she tried to brush it off, and she said, "I don't mind being called pushy, what matters is being called lazy or stupid." It was a classic Princess Myrtle response, direct, unapologetic, and vaguely aristocratic in tone. One of the most significant controversies in her life came in 2004 in New York City. At the Da Silvano restaurant, Princess Myrtle was dining near a table of black diners. Several witnesses said she became agitated by the group's volume and allegedly told them to go back to the colonies. Major papers picked up the story, yet her office denied the phrase had ever been said, insisting that she asked for quiet in a polite tone. But the damage was done. Public opinion turned sharply, and she later told reporters that she had once pretended to be African by wearing an Afro wig and living among tribal people in Africa. That explanation made things a whole lot worse. It sounded dismissive, performative, and at best, tone-deaf. For many, it confirmed their worst assumptions about her. The story became an international scandal, and yet she refused to fully apologise, and she stood by her version of events. When Meghan Markle joined the royal family, all eyes were on how the institution would change. In 2017, Meghan attended her first major family gathering, the Queen's Christmas lunch. It should have been a celebratory moment, but as photos emerged, controversy struck again. Princess Myrtle of Kent arrived wearing a blackamoor brooch, a piece of jewellery featuring a dark-skinned figure in an exotic pose often associated with colonial imagery. These brooches are now widely seen as offensive. The timing made it explosive. Meghan, biracial American, had spoken about the pressures of being a woman of colour in the public eye. For a royal, any royal, to wear such a brooch at that moment seemed like a calculated insult. A spokesperson for the princess later said that she was very sorry and distressed that the brooch caused offence and that it would not be worn again. But the apology came late. For many, it was another example of her failure to understand the world she lives in, or worse, to care. Princess Myrtle is not just a figure in the royal background, she's a writer too. Her bibliography includes both historical fiction and non-fiction, often focused on royal or aristocratic themes. Titles like The Serpent and the Moon and The Queen of Four Kingdoms reveal her deep interest in European nobility, dynastic politics, and medieval romance. Her books are thoroughly researched and she's proud of them, but it's often the interviews promoting them that stir more controversy. She's commented publicly that the British need to work harder, like the Chinese. She once suggested that commoners should show more respect to the aristocracy, and she's never been shy about discussing bloodlines, heritage, or the notion of breeding, terms that sound antiquated and elitist at worst. In one radio interview, she famously said she and her husband had more royal blood than any other member of the royal family, even more than the Queen. It was a jaw-dropping statement, actually questionable and socially tone-deaf. To her, heritage matters and rank matters. While those values may have made sense in a 19th century salon, today they resonate differently. Princess Myrtle's father, Baron Gunther von Reibnitz, was a Nazi party member and an officer in the SS cavalry during the Second World War. This wasn't just a rumour, it was documented and confirmed. She's addressed it publicly, insisting that her father was never involved in atrocities and that he left the SS before the war's end. She also went on to say that she's proud of her Hungarian heritage and feels no guilt over her father's past. However, for a public figure in the 21st century, especially one linked to the British royal family, the connection raised uncomfortable questions. Why hadn't she spoken about it sooner, and why was she so defensive? Critics argued that she never showed real reflection or remorse. Instead, she maintained a firm grip on aristocratic pride, seemingly untouched by the moral weight of history. Until recently, Princess Myrtle and her husband lived in a grace and favoured apartment at Kensington Palace. The cost? Well, reportedly, just £69 a week, a token sum. Though they were not working royals, they enjoyed prime real estate at the taxpayers' expense. When this became public knowledge in the early 2000s, it caused uproar. Eventually the couple agreed to pay market rent, but it left a sour taste. To many, it was emblematic of everything people disliked about the royal fringe, privilege without duty. Even after the rent change, questions remained. Should a minor royal couple with no public duties live in a palace apartment subsidised by the Crown Estate? The optics were terrible, and they lingered. Princess Myrtle is mostly out of the limelight today. She still appears at the odd royal event, writes and gives the occasional interview, but she's never rebuilt public trust. For some, she's an unfiltered aristocrat, an anachronism. For others, she's simply unlikable. Her defenders say she's sharp, educated and unfairly maligned, but her critics say she's arrogant, elitist and offensive, and very few are neutral. She doesn't want to be a modern royal, and she's never pretended to be, and in a world where the monarchy is under increasing scrutiny, that stance looks increasingly like a liability. So who is Princess Myrtle of Kent? A misunderstood intellectual, an aristocrat out of time, or someone who's never learned to read the room. In a royal family navigating modernity, she represents a past that many would rather forget. But she hasn't faded quietly into the background. She's left a trail of headlines that few other royals can match, whether by intention or misstep. So what do you think? Is she a bad press victim or the architect of her own controversies? Let me know in the comments, and if you're into stories that pull back the curtain on royal life, well, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.